911 call arrives from a large commercial building. The caller reports smoke. They don't know where it started. They don't know if anybody else is still inside. But the building knows. Its fire panel knows which detector activated. Its access control system knows which doors are locked. Its elevators know where they stopped, and its cameras may show where people are moving. The environmental sensors may already be tracking heat and smoke. So the information exists, the network exists, but the information and the network have never been properly introduced. Yet we built a beautiful new pathway for emergency communications. Now we need the data to fill it. And that's coming up next on TiPS Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch, and I'm a NENA certified ENP. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm your host of TiPS Today in Public Safety. Last Friday, we talked about how the building may know more than the caller. Buildings, vehicles, schools, campuses, businesses, and critical infrastructure already generate enormous amounts of information. This week on Monday, we talked about the moment when the information becomes a decision. Because collecting more data is not the objective, helping people make decisions better is. Then on Wednesday, we examined the confidence score. How do we know whether that information is reliable? Where did it come from? How current is it? Has it been confirmed? And how much confidence should we place in it? So today we're going to bring all those conversations together because the information exists. We're learning how to evaluate it. And next generation 911, well, that provides the pathway to transport it. But there's still one piece missing. We got to connect the systems holding the information with the public safety professionals that can use it. We built the network, now let's fill it up. The 911 call is still arriving almost empty. Look, I have been and continue to be heavily involved in the migration to next-gen 911. I'm actively working on a project that's putting IT connectivity in PSAPs, and when they're not ready for that connectivity, we convert it through a gateway to compatible analog trunks. But that doesn't put more data into a legacy system. We've designed secure, resilient IP emergency communications networks. We've developed new ways to route the calls. We've improved location capabilities, and we've created the foundation that allows PSAPs to exchange voice, text, images, as well as video and other forms of emergency information with the public. It's really an extraordinary technical achievement, but in too many cases the incident is still arriving, carrying little more operational data than it did decades ago. A voice, a telephone number, a location. And through audio translation, whatever the caller can see, hear, remember, or explain during one of the most stressful moments of their life. Meanwhile, the environment around the caller is generating an entirely different level of intelligence. And fortunately, the network is capable of carrying more. The question is, where does that information come from? The information already exists. Look, much of the context that public safety needs is already being created outside the 911 environment. A connected vehicle might know the collision occurred. It knows the direction of the impact, the change in velocity or delta V. It knows whether airbags deployed and possibly how many occupants were detected, as well as their seatbelt status. Commercial buildings know which alarm activated, which floor is affected, whether a sprinkler system is flowing, and which doors are accessible, and if the elevator entered emergency mode. Schools maintain floor plans, emergency contacts, camera systems, access instructions, and information about rooms with hazards, like labs. A utility company will know if the electrical service has been interrupted. Pipeline operators can detect abnormal pressure change, as well as an enterprise security center seeing several signals from the same event well before anyone calls 911. So the data is not waiting to be invented. Much of it already exists, but it resides in different systems, different companies, different industries, different formats, and different access rules. And that's what makes this more than just a networking problem. It's an ecosystem problem. where the information will be cultivated. Public safety is not going to be able to create monitoring for every sensor, vehicle, building, camera, or analytical tool that can contribute to the future emergency incident picture. Now, much of that information and innovation is going to be pushed off to the private sector. And that's where the new forms of contextual information will continue to be cultivated. But that shouldn't frighten public safety. That should actually get their attention. Because if public safety is not actively involved in defining how that ecosystem works, someone else is going to define it for them. And technology companies understand their products. Building operators understand their facilities. And automakers understand their vehicles. Security providers understand their sensors, so they understand what information is useful and what's distracting. They know what's got to be verified and what needs to arrive immediately, as well as what can wait, as well as what could place public responders at risk if it's wrong. Yeah, the private sector may cultivate that information, but public safety has to establish the rules for that information to become operationally useful. Standards creating the bridge. The problem is we can't build this future through thousands of individual proprietary connections. One interface for every alarm company, another for every automaker, another for every building platform, and yet another for every camera provider, and yet another one for the schools. That just creates a collection of technical islands. Standards create the bridge. Standards allow information from different sources to be understood consistently. They help define what the data means, where it originated, when it was created, whether it's changed, and how it was authenticated. They know how much confidence should be placed in the data, and while standards can help answer basic but essential questions like who created the information, is the source authorized, is the information current, has it been independently verified, was it generated by a person, a sensor, or an algorithm, as well as has anyone altered it and who's permitted to see it, as well as what happens when the information's corrected or withdrawn. See, those details aren't administrative baggage. They're what turn the data into trustworthy operational context. Public safety must participate. Look, we said this before, the public safety sector can't remain as a spectator in this standards work. Public safety agencies need to participate. Emergency communications professionals need to participate. Responders need to participate. And government technology leaders must be there, as well as policymakers, because a standard can be technically elegant and still fall operationally short. The data may arrive too slowly, might contain the wrong fields, and it may lack provenance, and it may be in a form that overwhelms the telecommunicator. And that's going to create additional liability without improving the response. It may be designed about what a vendor can provide instead of what the incident commander actually needs. So public safety has to help define the requirements, but not after the product is built, not after proprietary practices become entrenched in the industry, not after agencies are presented with a finished system and then forced to accept it. Now, we've got to engage while the ecosystem is being formed, because the people responsible for managing emergencies need to have a voice in determining how emergency information gets exchanged. Context, not a data dump. So the biggest danger in connecting all of this information, too much data. The dispatcher doesn't need every sensor reading from a building. The firefighter doesn't need every access control event. And the police department certainly doesn't need hours of unfiltered video. And as far as the call taker, they can't stop an emergency interview to interpret 20 new data feeds. So the objective is not to fill every screen they have, but to provide the right information to the right person at the right moment in a form that they can understand. Sound familiar? That means the system surrounding NG911 has to do more than just transport data. It's got to help in the organization of that data by correlating it, prioritizing it, and explaining why it matters. Smoke detector activating on its own is just one piece of information. A smoke detector activating, combined with rising heat, sprinkler flow, and multiple access control exits, becomes a much stronger incident picture. And that's where Monday's discussion becomes important. Information has got to support a decision, and it's where Wednesday's confidence score became important because the recipient needs to understand the information and what deserves attention, because context is useful. A data dump is not. Trust, but verify. Now, none of this means that information from a building, vehicle, camera, or commercial platform should be automatically believed. Sensors fail. Databases get outdated. Clocks lose synchronization. Floor plans change and doors get renumbered. A lot of cameras get pointed in the wrong direction and algorithms misinterpret what they detect. And while several systems may try to appear to confirm the same fact, many times they're actually just repeating information from one original source. Now, trust can't be assumed, it's got to be earned. That requires provenance, authentication, timestamps, audit trails, correlation, and human judgment. AI, more than free to recommend. Sensors may detect, and a system may calculate, but people have to remain responsible for understanding the circumstances as well as making the operational decisions. The objective isn't to make the technology sound more certain, it's to make the information more provable. The reality check. A big, beautiful network filled with unreliable data is not going to produce better outcomes. Neither will a network filled with stale data or proprietary information that won't reach outside one vendor's system, or unfiltered information that overwhelms the very people it was supposed to help. NG911 gives us a pathway, but the connectivity alone doesn't create trust. That requires governance, standards, security, privacy protections, operational policies, public-private cooperation, and continuing public safety involvement. Yeah, building the network was a monumental task, but I think making it useful is going to require an equally serious commitment to the information that travels across it. The bottom line. Last Friday we said the building may know more than the caller. Monday we said the information must help people make decisions. Wednesday we asked how much confidence we should place in that information. Today we complete the picture. The buildings know, the vehicles know, enterprises know, the sensors in their networks know. NG911 gives us a way to carry what they know into the emergency communications environment. But only if we create the standards, governance, and trusted relationships that are going to allow those systems to work together. For the private sector, count on them developing the technology for more information. It's going to continue cultivating all that data. The public sector has got to embrace that work, participate in it, and ensure that public safety's operational needs remain at the center. We built the network, now we need to fill it with information that's useful, information that's current, information that's secure, information that can be verified, and information that arises context, not just noise. NG911 gave us that pathway. Buildings, vehicles, enterprises, and communities possess the content, and standards are how we bring it all together and turn a beautiful network into a true public safety ecosystem. That's it for this episode of Tips Today in Public Safety. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Hey, it's Fletch. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you learned something new. Remember to catch all of my previous episodes of Tips Today in Public Safety, published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on most social media platforms and streaming 24/7 at 911tips.com. My blogs are located at fletch.tv, and my professional website is at fletch911.com. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out the algorithms. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
You've been listening to Tips Today in Public Safety, hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.